In today's ultra-competitive Airbnb market, maintaining a high star rating and guest reviews is critical.
Along with competitive pricing and conversion rates, your property's star rating is going to be one of the most influential factors when it comes to how high your listing is ranked by Airbnb's algorithm in search results.
What's up, guys? I'm Steven.
And I'm Kylie, and we know firsthand that you cannot please everyone, and that maintaining a perfect 5-star rating over years and years is really difficult to do. Not impossible, some people do it, but that's very rare.
We also know that there are some critical but very much avoidable mistakes that hosts are making that may lead to a 4 or a 3 or a 2 or even a 1-star review. Avoidable mistake number 1 is poor communication.
One of the most significant mistakes you can make as a short-term rental host is failing to prioritize communication with your guests.
Communication is the backbone of a positive guest experience, and neglecting that can lead to so many frustrations from a guest and ultimately negative reviews.
Guests expect timely and responsive communication throughout their stay, from their initial inquiry all the way through checkout.
Kylie's sister and brother-in-law recently shared a story. They were staying in an Airbnb and they had a scheduled Zoom meeting shortly after their check-in. They went to connect to the Wi-Fi using the details provided with the house manual, but that code didn't work.
They reached out via Airbnb messaging with no luck, and then they tried the phone number in the house manual, which led them to a call center.
The call center person had no idea which property they were at, who they were, let alone the Wi-Fi code. Their mission was just to take messages and then relay those to the property manager.
It took 2 days for them to get the correct Wi-Fi code. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff that gives property managers a bad name, and rightfully so.
Yeah, it's no good.
No internet, no emails, no CCs, no BCCs.
And this was just trying to get a Wi-Fi code. And not to downplay the importance, Wi-Fi is important to a lot of people, but what if there was a plumbing stoppage or a bad air conditioner in the desert and you get that kind of response?
Or no response.
Or no response, yeah.
The point is that we live in a fast-paced world, and customers expect prompt responses. Ignoring or delaying communication just signals a lack of professionalism on the part of the host.
In addition to prompt responses, you also need to prepare yourself to be able to answer any question that a guest might throw at you.
Make sure that you've spent a good amount of time in the house. Overnight is great, but day and night. And take notes about any little quirks or things that you think someone might ask about in the future.
We've talked about this before, but we like to take a detailed walkthrough video to really show everything in the house. We flip all the light switches to show what lights turn on. We look at what GFCI reset buttons control which outlets.
We look at all of the different faucets and how they turn on and get hot, showers and sinks, where the garbage disposal button is. Some people get confused if it's a button versus a switch on the wall.
Outdoor lights, pool equipment, the list goes on.
You may have all of this fresh in your mind during setup and think that you can recall it at a moment's notice, but if you're looking after multiple properties, or if you're managing remotely and you're not there all the time, it's nice to have that easy to look at reminder on your phone or computer or wherever. Also, that could come in handy if you ever want to take a vacation and you have somebody who's maybe not as familiar with the house looking after it for you. Hand them your note sheet and your video, and they should be pretty well prepared to answer questions.
I need a vacation.
Avoidable mistake number 2 are cleanliness issues.
The condition of your property has a direct impact on the guest experience. That's pretty self-explanatory, and you better believe it that if a guest finds one issue, they are going to be on the hunt for anything else that might be wrong.
Imagine a guest arriving at your house and they find sticky surfaces, a dirty bathroom, or stained linens.
Any trust that they had in the cleanliness of the property at that point is gone.
So what can you do to avoid this? First and foremost, you really want to have a dependable and thorough cleaner.
But because no one is perfect, try to have someone there to do an inspection after the cleaners have finished and before the guest arrives.
We call these perfection inspections, and we do these before every guest arrival, and we found a lot of mistakes.
Mistakes that thankfully we were able to catch before the guest did. A clean and well-maintained space will always get better reviews.
It's a good point to mention maintenance. Regular maintenance is equally important. You need to take the time to inspect your property thoroughly and react and respond to any issues that you find promptly.
This includes testing appliances, light fixtures, furniture, and plumbing, and more.
We like to encourage an open line of communication with our guests, and we tell them to not be shy about telling us if they find any maintenance items or something that isn't quite right.
Responding quickly to their needs, whether big or small, just shows your commitment to giving them a great guest experience.
Avoidable mistake number 3 is setting unrealistic guest expectations.
Setting unrealistic expectations is a common mistake that can lead to negative guest experiences and poor reviews.
Honesty and transparency are key when it comes to managing guest expectations.
Let's say you market your property as a luxurious and spacious retreat with ocean views, and then the guest arrives to a modest house with a partial ocean view.
Having a stark difference between those expectations and then the reality that the guest sees are a sure way to disappoint them.
Shy away from misleading or exaggerated words in your listing title or descriptions, and be honest about the size, location, and any limitations that your property might have.
We learned this the hard way at our beach property and have to be very specific about the size.
It's a duplex property and each unit is less than 500 square feet, and even though we use descriptive words like cozy and small cottage and things like that, people would still get there and be surprised about the size.
Eventually, we added the actual square footage to the listing description and really haven't had any issues with guest expectations after that.
So if you want to avoid misleading your guests, even unintentionally, make sure that you're providing accurate photos and descriptions of the property.
This means be careful with using wide-angle lenses for your photo shots or over-editing to enhance photos.
This is something that you should definitely discuss with your photographer before the photo shoot day.
Avoidable mistake number 4 is not getting ahead of weaknesses.
This is sort of similar to mistake number 3, but if your property has any sort of weaknesses or limitations, make sure to get ahead of it and also have a plan for how guests can still enjoy your property despite that limitation.
We'll give you 2 examples, again using our San Diego duplex property. The first one is that parking can be tricky.
In Mission Beach, where our duplex is, the garages are located on the back side of the properties on an unmarked alleyway, and the street signs are on the pedestrian-only courts. So it can be a little bit tricky to find the garage for the first time.
We anticipated this from the very beginning, and we include step-by-step photo check-in instructions starting at the main road that show the view and every turn that you need to make to get to the garage.
All the way to the front door. This step-by-step photo check-in guide was so well received by our guests that we now use it for all of the properties that we manage, even if it's not that hard to find it.
For properties that are easy to navigate to, we still include details like how to operate the garage keypad or use the smart lock.
We also utilize these check-in guides as a place to show the property maintenance schedules, so we'll tell when the pool will be cleaned and when the landscapers come.
So at our San Diego properties, finding the property can be tough, but then actually parking your car can be difficult as well.
Garages in Mission Beach are small, and ours is actually on the larger side compared to most of the properties around us, but we still sometimes run into depth issues because the washer and dryer are located in the garage.
On our listing page, we give the exact depth and height of the garage so guests can plan in advance if they have a car and will it fit.
And we also have a short list of alternative parking spaces available, free spots close to the house that they can use if they have a big truck that's too long or something like that.
It's a parking spot.
It's not just a parking spot.
And finally, avoidable mistake number 5 is ignoring guest feedback.
One of the biggest mistakes you can make as a short-term rental host is ignoring guest feedback.
Since they're staying at the property and they don't have any bias that might come with being the manager or the owner, their feedback really can be valuable.
We know that it can be hard to take criticism, especially when you have spent so much time and money setting up your property.
But if you bought a firm mattress and some guests are complaining that your mattress is too firm, it's
Not just some, but like if you're getting a lot
repeated
of complaints.
Yeah, then it's probably time to start thinking about buying a softer mattress.
We'll link our sample inventory and our bedroom design guide in the description below in case you need a little assistance.
You're also going to encounter guests who think something is broken or doesn't work, but in reality it's just user error. But it's still important to take a look at these things after they check out, just to double check.
We had this happen this week in San Diego. It started with one of the guests not being able to close the garage door.
Sometimes the salty and humid air makes the button stick on our garage keypad, so you have to be deliberate and direct when you're pushing in the code.
We actually include that exact verbiage in our check-in guide, but not everybody reads it or they forget.
So this guest couldn't get the door to close, and Instead of contacting us in that moment, they pulled the emergency release handle to disconnect the door from the track, and they manually lowered the door themselves.
And just walked away. And then the next guest, the other guest in the duplex property, came to park their car, realized it was off the track, so they pushed it up manually, but then they went over to the emergency release and thought it was broken and called us to report that it was broken.
Since two people that had issues, we kind of took their word for it and we called out a garage door repair person, and he came and didn't find anything broken. What had actually happened is there was some obstruction with the safety sensors at the bottom of the door. Something we also mentioned to guests to take a look at. But
sometimes like a boogie board or a beach chair will just slightly get in front of that safety sensor, so that's a common thing. Thankfully, we've used this garage door repair company several times, and the guy was so nice and he just charged us a little bit for his call out fee. But we're still glad we did it despite the expense, because it did give us peace of mind that the garage door was working properly, he had checked everything out, and it was just user error this time.
This is an example where guest feedback was incorrect, but anytime guest tells you something, you should check it.
And we weren't mad at this guy at all. I mean, we were thankful that he did bring an issue that he thought was there to our attention so that we could check it out.
Let us know in the comments if you can relate to any of these things we're mentioning. Otherwise, hit that like and subscribe button so you see more short-term rental videos soon.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.